We learned what happens when you give counties the option to opt out of mask orders. So now the Tri-County Health Department is considering opting out the opt-out. It's a catch-22. Pull your kid out of public school to teach the district a lesson about masks and find out that you're still paying into the public school even if your kid isn't there.
I'm here, but I have all my family back there. It's not just about me, it's about my family.
Home in Colorado is not yet home for a family that just escaped Afghanistan. And we take What Do You Say to the Paralympics for a pronunciation we never knew was an issue. Next. Opting out of the opt-out. About 30 minutes ago, Tri-County's Health Board voted to get rid of a clause that allows counties to opt out of the public health orders. This happened after both Douglas and Adams counties each voted to opt out of a mandate requiring masks in schools. And it comes hours before the Arapahoe County commissioners were scheduled to vote on an opt-out there. Our Steve Stager has opted in to following this all day.
What a decision to opt in it was, Marshall. Tri-County's board voted 5-3 to get rid of this policy that allows counties to opt out. That policy was created back in November to please Republican Douglas County commissioners. Now, this vote comes on the eve of Arapahoe County commissioners voting whether or not to opt out of that mask mandate tomorrow. They gathered today to talk about the issue. It was a digital meeting earlier this afternoon, but there were protesters outside their board chambers still. Tri-County's Health Board voted last year to allow counties this opt-out power after the Douglas County commissioners wanted to separate from them, upset over health orders. Adams County commissioners actually influenced today's decision, though. When they opted out of the mask mandate last week, they argued Tri-County was passing the buck when they should be the ones making the decisions on mask orders. Here's some of the debate from Tri-County board members before they eliminated opt-outs.
The opt-out is a necessary safety valve, and we've seen it because not only has Douglas on this contentious issue opted out, this is a political issue, and Adams County opted out.
I'm concerned, given the trends in COVID, that what we've created is a policy that creates a patchwork of responses that's very driven by political decisions. And so I am for the rescinding of the opt-out policy.
So what's next for the two counties that opted out of the Tri-County mask mandate? Just a couple of minutes ago, the Tri-County board voted on a new mask mandate that will take effect on Wednesday. And that mandate would require both Adams and Douglas counties to enforce them, even though they opted out of the previous one. Bottom line here is this is like a game of hot potato. The governor had the hot potato for a while. He threw it to the local boards. I know, I'll throw it over here. He threw it to the local boards, who then said, the local health officials, who then said, we're going to throw it even further into the local mix, and now passed it back to Tri-County Health. And they have decided that they're going to put some gloves on and hold on to the hot potato for a while. It's wild.
We heard from the director of Tri-County Health today, Dr. John Douglas, who said feedback from across all spectrums on this, right?
It's amazing, actually. The Arapahoe County commissioners who are going to vote tomorrow, they put out a form out there to get people's opinions on this. They say that in about 2 weeks, they got 18,000 responses, a lot of loud voices. But they were able to determine that 12,000 of those responses were actually not valid. They came from IP addresses that were out of state, IP addresses that were out of this country. Marshall, there was one IP address that sent 6,800 of the responses to Arapahoe County commissioners. They say they tracked down other things that said, hey, on Facebook, Twitter, hey, just say you're a resident of Arapahoe County and that you don't want this.
And I'll correct myself. That was from Arapahoe County commissioners, not Dr. John Douglas. Bottom line, though, even without this, school districts were free to do whatever the school districts wanted to, regardless of what public health said.
And so many of them decided to stay with the Tri-County order.
Not confusing at all, Steve.
Nope. Trying to make it as easy as I can.
Opt into more of these stories, please.
Sure.
Thanks, Steve. Well, last week at the Douglas County School Board meeting, we heard from parents who don't want their kids to be required to wear masks in schools, a decision that was approved by the Douglas County School Board. One parent of two suggested she would remove her kids from the district, which would mean less money for Douglas County schools.
I've already begun researching alternative schooling for both of my children. You'd better believe where you see my smoke, there is a raging fire. There are so many more doing just the same thing and would be ready to pull their children from this district if this mandate is not abandoned. I am sure you understand the financial implications of such an exodus.
So what are the financial implications of such an exodus? In other words, how much money would a district miss out on if parents take their kids out of public school? School funding in Colorado is a complicated formula. Specific to Douglas County, each student equals around $8,600. So yes, fewer total students means fewer total dollars for the district. But just because you pull your student from the district does not exempt you from paying the Douglas County Schools portion of your property tax. There is no opting out of that. Right now, Douglas County property taxes only cover about 40% of what Douglas County schools need. The other 60% is paid for by the state. So in a way, the state would benefit. Fewer total students in Douglas County could result in fewer state dollars needed to fill the gap, which means more money for the state to spend or save.
Then that can be used by the General Assembly to fund other types of things, whether that's healthcare or general government operations or any variety of state-funded programs, or it could go into the savings account, the rainy day fund, if you will.
School funding is based on student count day that happens in October, but really it's not one day. If a student attends school in September, and again, any one day in October, they are counted as a student in that district for funding. So if a student is pulled after attending one day in October, the district still gets the money. So you've heard now from the parent who does not want masks on kids. Now you're going to hear from Randall Frazier. Tonight, we continue our series of conversations with parents, asking what we all can learn from their school district's experience with COVID this year. Frazier's kids attend schools in the Platte Canyon district. Masks are not required there except for school buses. In the classroom, masks are just recommended. Frazier tells us his fifth grader has already had to be quarantined due to a positive COVID case or multiple COVID cases at the school. He thinks masks and a more consistent fight for masks could help prevent that.
This is the only way we're going to get this stuff under control. I don't understand why, 20 miles from here, 20 miles from Denver, we have a complete different mindset. It's mind-boggling. I just wish everybody would get on the same page here. It's not my team versus your team. We're all in this together, and it's not going to go away as long as we have people denying the science.
We'd love to hear from parents across Colorado. What can all of us learn from your community's experience, for better or for worse? Reach out to us on email or on social media. It appears we have a compromise in the battle of who will run Mesa County's November election. We know who won't be running it. Republican clerk Tina Peters has been MIA since being accused of turning off surveillance cameras and allowing unauthorized access to election voting machines. In a lawsuit filed today by Democratic Secretary of State Jana Griswold, she asks a judge to declare Peters absent and name Republican Wayne Williams and former Mesa County Clerk Sheila Reiner to run the show. In less than 3 weeks, Peters has been ousted as election supervisor, and new election voting machines have been ordered to be installed tomorrow. If this seems fast, here's why. Colorado's election is on November 2nd, 64 days away, but it's just 19 days until September 18th. Ballots have to be sent by this day to military and overseas voters who are still registered to vote in Colorado. It's that deadline that cannot be missed that requires someone to be running the elections in Mesa County, even if it's not going to be the elected clerk. And while we're on the topic of Mesa County elections, may I make a recommendation where I suggest you check out someone else's reporting? Grand Junction Daily Sentinel reporter Charles Ashby has covered aspects of the Mesa County clerk situation that you have not seen here on Next. I'm trying to pay him a compliment here, even though he publicly makes fun of how I dress. Ashby, who goes by Old Newsman on Twitter, got emails from Mesa County to see why Clerk Tina Peters claims it is not safe for her to come home. Ashby found no actual threats in the emails. Another story by Ashby explains how the contract for the new Dominion voting machines comes with a caveat that Dominion will not sue Mesa County because of election fraud claims. That clause, however, does not protect Peters from being sued. You all came through in a big way to help Colorado parents dealing with unimaginable loss. Next, viewers raised more than $26,000 through our Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign to support Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. The nonprofit trains and sends photographers to take photos with families at the hospital when their child is not born alive or dies soon after. Jamie, who you see here, describes this as a life-changing gift. And thanks to your generosity, more families will be able to receive that gift in the future. Kyle will have more on our next Word of Thanks on Wednesday. Today, the U.S. ended its 20-year war in Afghanistan. But for one Colorado family who escaped the violence, they're leaving behind more than just memories.
What happened when you were in Afghanistan, the Taliban, when they were shooting and you got hurt? Where you got hurt? Right here. Yeah, the flash bombs.
They're still fighting to get the rest of their family back home safely. And as the Paralympic competition continues in Tokyo, we couldn't help but notice a disservice to one Colorado mountain community. We Salida in to clean up the mess. Next. America's longest war is over. Today, the U.S. officially withdrew our last service members from Afghanistan, bringing to an end the latest evacuation process and a 20-year U.S. presence. In all, more than 6,000 Americans were evacuated from the country. U.S. General says that's the vast majority of those who wanted to leave at this time. Fewer than 250 American citizens are believed to still be there. Throughout this chaotic evacuation process, we've heard from Democratic Congressman Jason Crow, who is the only Coloradan in Congress right now to have served in the military. After several attempts, we will hear from Democratic Senator Michael Bennet. He serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee and has agreed to speak with us tomorrow. The U.S. National Security Advisor says that the Biden administration plans to hold the Taliban to their commitment of letting Afghan allies leave the country beyond today. One Colorado family returned home last week after being stuck in Kabul after the Taliban's takeover. They had to leave some family members behind, but say they're American allies who deserve to be here too. Here's Victoria De Leon.
What?
Give me bandage.
Why?
I got hurt right here.
Monday, 4-year-old Ava only needed to take care of a small scar on her foot. Since early August, there have been emotional scars,
You got hurt? Where you got hurt?
in addition to the physical ones.
Right here. Yeah, the flash bombs.
Haroon Zarifi is grateful his children are safe.
Taliban, take me.
Yeah, she was scared that Taliban were gonna take her.
After weeks of not knowing if they would escape the violence in Kabul.
I was seeing people died right in front of me on that crowd. Children died right in front of me on that crowd. And I was about to lose my daughter right there from that flash bomb.
4 plane rides after leaving Afghanistan, Haroon, his wife, and 2 children returned to their Denver home last week.
But with all that, still it didn't bring me the happiness because I left behind my whole family there. My youngest brother is 11 years old.
The dozens of documents in his lap are proof his dad and father-in-law are American allies.
My dad, he did provide security. He did work for a security supervisor for at least more than 7 or 8 years. He was so proud. He's a great guy.
These are the same documents Haroon says his family has to take to the airport every time they try to evacuate, which makes them a target.
So like they've been carrying all these documents with them, and Taliban has to go through them to let them go closer to the American. So now they know who is working with American.
They say home is where the heart is.
We are here, but I'm not here.
Haroon left his heart in Afghanistan, and Colorado won't be home until the rest of his family is here too.
He helped you guys. He put his life in danger and risk. Now he deserves it to be in the United States.
For Next, I'm Victoria De Leon.
The U.S. Department of State says it still expects people who want to leave Afghanistan should be able to do so. They could not provide specific processing times for special immigrant visas, which is what Haroon's father is waiting for. While she competes in the Paralympics in Tokyo, her family is cheering her on from Colorado. Just don't ask the announcers where in Colorado. And we celebrate members of our own team, Aaron and Kevin. Though if it's for the gram, hashtag match made in Kevin, hashtag tender love and Karen. Next.
The smoke is back across downtown Denver, really much of the metro area. You can just kind of see that haze lingering out there, and unfortunately, more is on the way from wildfires burning out to the west. California, Nevada, Idaho, looking at the worst of it, but this smoke plume will shift back into the metro area, much of the Front Range by tomorrow morning. This is 9-10 o'clock, and then it just continues to push in across the eastern plains. Watch out for that. Today, the 90-degree heat made a comeback. 93 out of DIA, sizzling off to the eastern plains. We're in for a couple more 90-degree days before a cool off comes our way. Tomorrow morning, the hazy sunshine is back. A couple of isolated storms up in the mountains, but we stay dry here in Denver. About 97 on deck for us tomorrow, just 1 degree shy of our record 101 in Lamar, and the 7-day forecast brings us the 80s. The monsoon storms Thursday and Friday.
For tonight's What Do You Say, we're talking about a place known as the Heart of the Rockies. This southern Colorado mountain community is in the spotlight as a Paralympian who trained there competes in Tokyo. As Sophia Herzog's family watched from the Chaffee County city they call home, while announcers had trouble nailing down the name.
There's Sophia Herzog currently holding down the bronze medal position as the fans back in Salida, Colorado try to cheer her on.
Salida? Not exactly. We reached out to the Paralympians' family to ask, what do you say? They also cleared up something else for us, too.
NBC aired her race, and like you mentioned, they had the watch party in her town in which they pronounced Salida. How do you pronounce it?
Salida.
Gotta get it right, right?
And it's Herzog, not Herzog.
I get maybe the last name would have been more, I still don't think either of them would be that confusing, but there you have it. Of course, Salida, Colorado. By the way, Sophia Herzog ended up winning the bronze medal in that 100-meter breaststroke competition. Now I'm wondering if I'm saying the name wrong all of a sudden. Where should we travel to next? Email us your place name suggestions or send them to us on social media. Congratulations are in order for 2 of the most important members of Team Next. That and feedback from someone who is not vaccinated but would prefer to be. It was a year in the making for two of our own. Producer Kevin, web producer Aaron, tied the knot this weekend. Some of us on the Next team traveled to St. Louis for their fun. Kevin and Aaron, however, did not fall in love while working on Next. There's no time to fall in love while working on this show. They did meet while working in TV in Spokane, Washington. Congrats to Tender, Love, and Karen. Your feedback tonight from Joanne. She has some sharp words for the parents who don't want their kids wearing masks. She explained she's high risk with a lot of allergies to antibiotics, so she's not getting the vaccine, but has been wearing a mask through COVID and during the flu season, keeping away from people who are not in her bubble, suggesting maybe think of people like Joanne who can't get the vaccine even though they would want to. Other things get in the way, and the masks work for someone like Joanne. We'll get more into this as different health departments make different decisions, probably even tomorrow. Next.